It's nice to just be sitting with you today. Today we're going to do more concepts-based, less hands on the bell. So I just want to back up and take a look at the big picture. We've covered a lot of ground, and we're going to talk about what usually goes wrong with the kettlebell snatch, which I'd be tempted to have you rack your brain and see if you can think of some things that would go wrong, as well as what are the key big concepts that will help you be successful. So as far as things that go wrong, let's work bottom up, just like we have with everything else. One of the big things that I see is feet rocking all over the place. It's called dancing feet, and it's when you're kind of not secure in the ground, which again is where we want to take all of our power from. And it's important that you really do grip into the ground, because if the toes lift, we're going to fall backwards and be off balance, or if the heels lift, that means we're kind of cheating a little bit with our heels. Over time, it might not be bad for the heels to lift. Maybe you really do want to generate that much power because you're using like a super heavy PR personal record weight for the kettlebell snatch, and that's cool. But let's learn mechanics correctly first and keep our heels into the ground. The next thing that I want you guys to be looking out for is the timing of your hips being off. So we definitely want to find the correct timing when we're doing kettlebell snatch, so that when our hips are going, the bell is going up, and when our hips lock out, that bell is locked out overhead. And same thing on the way down. You don't want to just hinge over and the bell's still overhead. So it really is this marriage of the hip hinge that we see throughout everything. And maybe when you started this, you had no idea that the hip hinge was going to be this important, that you see it in the clean, in the swing, in the high pull, and in the snatch. But it is so, so true. So it might be worth, especially if you're still a little bit iffy on it, going back to that first video where we did the hinge versus the squat and kind of just looking at how you can clean up that hinge form a little bit more. And to do this, I definitely encourage you to look at a mirror or look at a video and find it there, because that's really going to be the first step for everything, is seeing yourself doing the movement with body weight mechanics and cleaning anything up before you ever add a load there. And we can't just expect that we're going to be the best of the best at this. You have to allow yourself time to be bad, time to make mistakes, because it's those mistakes that our muscle memory will watch back and we're start to make those neural pathways, because your mind doesn't want you to be wrong and doesn't want you to feel that pain of maybe doing a movement wrong. And so you need to film yourself or look in the mirror so that you can give yourself those feedback cues and get better. But if we never, it's kind of like when you see somebody dancing and they're like, this is what I think I look like dancing, and then this is how I actually look dancing, and they look absolutely ridiculous when they're actually dancing. Of course, they're enjoying themselves, but when you're weight training, you don't have that luxury, because we want to do it safely and we want to be efficient in our performance. So you always want to look how you actually think you look. And you never want there to be, oh, I actually look like this, which is probably sloppy or something's like majorly off. So give yourself that grace to get from how you actually are looking not so great to where you think and you actually do look amazing and badass. And people are like, who's that girl? She can snatch. Yeah. So that's going to be the importance of the hip hinge throughout all of these movement patterns, all of them. Another huge mistake that is made is dragging the arms. So whether you're dragging the bell up or you're dragging it down, we just spent forever talking about how this is a hip-dominated movement. So that's where the power generation should come from. But if you're still using your arms here, that's going to be a hard no. You want your arms to be a guiding light. They are just the gentle force that guides the bell. Thank goodness you have them, or else we wouldn't be able to hold the bell. But that's really what they're doing there, as well as, of course, allowing the bell to spin between that hook grip and that diagonal grip. So just don't be the person that uses their arms. You'll see it a lot. And you guys are way beyond that. To build off, don't be using the arms, I think the important indication that we talked about is the hands and moving from hip grip to diagonal grip. What you don't want to ever do is death grip, which would be squeezing that bell as tight as you can. So there are levels to this. It is not black and white, and we didn't dive into that into the trainings. So I think it's important to emphasize, if you're doing high reps, that kettlebell is going to get slippery. I personally don't believe in putting chalk on your hands to the kettlebells. I'm like, give me calluses all day, all that stuff. And if we're moving the bell correctly through our hands, they won't be that bad, right? But as far as the grip goes and how much or how little, if you're doing light reps, that's one thing. But the more reps you're doing and the heavier the bell is, the more you're going to have to grip onto that bell, especially as you get tired, or else that bell is going to go flying. So this is your own personal play of judgment on, how much you need to lock out that grip. And you'll play with that. It'll come with experience. What I do want to make the distinction of there is that grip strength doesn't always mean more control. So we don't want to be gripping it throughout the whole thing, but you can use it as you need it once you get tired. That's everything for a lot of the things that I see go wrong with the kettlebell snatch. And I'm really excited to start talking about the overarching themes. Okay, big picture, kettlebell snatch and where does it fit? So we have the kettlebell clean, the swing, and the snatch. And out of all of those, the snatch is definitely one of the most explosive movements. And I think that it kind of like has this crown on its head because of that, because it is hard to master all the timing and the mechanics of the hand sliding over. But it's just such a cool movement. So as a coach, less from giving you techniques and more from giving you that confidence and motivation to go in like a tiger and crush it. The number one thing you need to be successful in a snatch is no hesitancy. You cannot hesitate. You must commit to the movement. It is explosive. Be explosive. Know that you've got it. Know that you have that bell. And one of my favorite things is that you are controlling the bell. The bell is not controlling you. Believe it and repeat it when you're doing your snatches. Okay, good. Now, I think some of the other overarching themes for the kettlebell snatch is that, it's really just mastering the basics. So we already know that the setup of the feet, the hike, the breath, the hip snap, all of that is going to be the same. And we're just guiding the bell upon a different trajectory, a different arc. It's following a different path. It wants to go off on its own journey. It's part of the ducklings and it wants to be the beautiful pink duckling. It wants its own story as the main character. So allow it to have that journey and that path. Another big overarching theme that we didn't get to touch much upon is going to be tension and relaxation. So there's a concept in hardstyle kettlebell training that is called fast and loose. And you will see these, people in the gym or in like very strict kettlebell videos, because in case you didn't know kettlebell history, kettlebells largely came over from Russia. And there's this guy, Pavel, and he is known as like the father of modern kettlebells. It's very controversial where they came from, so nobody can really like claim it. It goes back in history a long ways away. But what it was, of course, as most things start out, was very male dominated. And so they used very military-esque verbiage when they first started training people for the snatch. And one of the weird things that picked up, of course, was yes, comrade. Like you'd be like, yes, comrade. And then all the books that, came out from Pavel were like, comrade, when you do the kettlebell swings, you need to do like X amount of reps, this and that. And so it was very masculine energy and very sharp and all of that. But you would see these guys that are in those old school kettlebell videos, and they'd do like, let's say 10 to 50 kettlebell swings, and then they'd literally just be like shaking it out, just like shaking their body out like the Teletubbies. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. And they're doing that to loosen up their muscles, because when they're kettlebell swinging, what is happening? You should know the answer to this one now. Top of the kettlebell swing is a plank. Top of the snatch is a plank. And on the way down, they're relaxing their body. Their muscles aren't as tense. So we're oscillating, or we're going back and forth between this yin and yang energy where all of our muscles are squeezed, our quads, our glutes, our core, the fist, yeah? Because that's a big one, like swing back, boom, get that fist, and that's gonna help you light your core up. And that concept of being nice and tight and generating like an insane amount of tension and power throughout your body is a key concept in kettlebells. And you do see it throughout all the movements, and it does carry over to all your other training. So the ability to transfer between a kind of like rested body and a super tight body, and the breath is in sync with that flow as well. It's all a flow. It's all energy flowing. Yeah. So the final big concept that I want to go over with you is something we touched on in the beginning. So it really is going to elaborate on it again from a bit more of a coaching perspective. But please, 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 please start all of these movements with body weight. You're going to want to do a lot of body weight to make sure that you have the movement pattern correct, as we were talking about earlier in the what goes wrong section. Then you're going to want to move to something that is very light, and it could not even be a traditional weight. Sometimes I will use like a water jug or an orange juice jug because it has that handle. It could be empty, could have a little bit left in it, but it allows you to spear through your hands, so that's pretty cool. I've used just a regular water bottle before. Really anything that's like lightweight, a Windex bottle, anything you can pretend is a kettlebell and do these movements with, because you're going to want something for your brain to make that connection to that there's an object there, and spatially you have to be aware of that, right? It's like when I have my clients do like Turkish get-ups for the first time, when they're doing it body weight, their arms all the way out here or all the way out here. But the second that I add an item to them, because there's a lot going on with like what they're doing on the floor, they become aware of that item and their arm goes back into their overhead position where I want it to be, where it's safe, where it's stable, because now they actually have to worry about that. And you know, your body wants to keep you safe. So start where you're at. There is no rush to be anywhere else other than when you're at. And there's no rush to be amazing at this right away. So I want you to let go of the shame and the guilt and the why can't I get this right, and just really open up and embrace yourself into the process. Let go of the ego, drop the ego, and come as you are. Come ready for the snatch. That's everything for today, friends. Thank you so much. It was very nice to sit down with you, especially as we near the end of our snatch challenge. And you are just the best. I'm having a wonderful time with you. I'll see you tomorrow.